Earlier this year, a transgender athlete won the state archery championship. Her victory, though, will be one of the only one of its kind because shortly after the win, the Texas Field Archery Association changed its rules. The decision bans athletes like her from competing alongside women in Texas. Will DuPree explains how her case fits into a larger debate about who's allowed to compete.
Kelly Jean Pine first picked up a bow almost 2 years ago. Hours of practicing and competing paid off when in February the 53-year-old won state in the women's senior freestyle.
It felt good. It felt like I had achieved something, and then that was rapidly taken away.
3 women filed protests with the Texas Field Archery Association, objecting to the results.
Why they did it was because I'm transgender, but I don't understand why. Because there's no physical advantage in archery.
The TFAA formed a committee to look into the objections. 3 weeks later, they said it's unfair for Pine to compete. In a report they wrote, they fear that in 20 years, all female records in all sports may be held by transgender people. Pine beat the runner-up only by a single point. The committee members said while considering their decision, they looked to the transgender sports law Texas passed last year. It requires students to only play on sports teams that match the sex listed on their birth certificate, but that law only applies to schools, not to field archery tournaments for adults. The committee also said trans women could only compete in Texas in men's events. But in June, the National Field Archery Association will let trans women compete in female events if testing proves their testosterone levels are below a certain amount.
I want to be able to compete as myself. I'm sure others want to compete as who they are.
Despite the setbacks, this Army veteran has set her sights on returning to competition in Texas.
If everybody wants me to shoot as a male, well, okay, now you're going to have a woman beating you. Because I'm a woman. However you want to look at it, I'm a woman. And I'm going to beat you.
Will DuPree, State of Texas.
Leaders from the Texas Field Archery Association passed along information to use in this story, but they declined our requests to go on camera. The 3 women who filed protests against Pine's win also turned down the chance to speak with us. We reached out multiple times as well to the executive director of the national organization. We wanted to find out its response to Texas not following its new guidelines for trans competitors, but we've yet to get any answers back. Pine is not the only Texas athlete dealing with pushback right now. Leah Thomas made history in March when she became the first trans woman to win an NCAA swimming tournament. Thomas is a graduate of Westlake High School near Austin. She swims for the University of Pennsylvania. Some groups challenged her victory, but the NCAA allowed Thomas to keep the title she won. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle, and we'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.